going in like my first name is Holiday. Nothing to lose, I already gave it all away. To the Father pray. You see that money got a mean fade away, leave you with pennies in a auto way. Let go, my model stay on that Imago J. Me and my guys finna ride on some model way.
I always want to speak as if there's people who don't believe what I believe in the room.
Hey everyone, this is Dave, chief photographer for NewReleaseTuesday.com and author of the blog Collide Photo. And this is Snapshot, where we go behind the scenes to look at the ministry behind the music. Since the release of the album Gravity, Lecrae has become a widely recognized name both inside and outside the hip-hop community. At its release, Gravity held the number 1 and 2 positions on iTunes hip-hop and rap charts and debuted on the number 3 position of the Billboard 200. By all measures, Lecrae is a superstar, the face of a new generation of hip-hop. With all the buzz surrounding Lecrae, you might be tempted to say that this fame and notice is going to derail his message. But having spent some time with him, I didn't see a hint of that. As a matter of fact, I saw just the opposite. I saw a humble and gentle spirit, recognizing that talent, notoriety, and success wasn't about him at all, but God, whose blessings were poured out upon him. I hope I was able to bring this out in the short time I spent with him, and I leave it up to you to decide. So how do you think hip-hop could be used in the church? Do you think it could be used to edify the church?
Well, I think that any art form is, all art belongs to God. So ultimately, and I think anytime you use art in a way that is your best foot forward, in a way that demonstrates how you've been gifted, it glorifies Him. So regardless, I think all art glorifies God, but I think there are some individuals who are specifically called and can use their art to edify the body, to, one, speak explicit truths that cause people to think on Scripture, to encourage, to inspire, to exalt God's name, and I think that one of the unique things about hip hop is it allows for a lot of admonishment and a lot of rebuke or challenge, whereas you wouldn't get that with a contemporary worship song, right? You usually most of the songs are centered around exalting God, which is beautiful. I think there's a lot of communal aspects to hip-hop where we're talking to one another, we can challenge one another, we can tell stories and so on and so forth. So I think it's beneficial in that regard, and the church can benefit greatly from it.
Do you ever feel like you're walking a tightrope between the church and the unchurched?
Yeah, I don't know if it's a tightrope for me as much as it is intentional. And so, I'm used to being a misfit, so to speak. I'm used to not quite fitting in. So it's not abnormal for me to kind of walk in multiple worlds. I'm comfortable in my skin, and I'm an apologist and I'm a missionary. And so I always want to speak as if there's people who don't believe what I believe in the room. And that hasn't always been my philosophy, but more recently, I've just been encouraged to consider that everyone listening may not know what I'm talking about. So how can I say things in such a way that resonate and relate, but yet unpack and still deliver the same truth? So.
How would you like to see the church respond to what you're doing in your message? How should they embrace these various views and styles of music?
Yeah, different views and styles of music. I think what the church has to do is they have to look at different people from different cultures as missionaries. Some of us are indigenous and some of us are not, and probably the vast majority of the Western church is not used to indigenous missionaries. We're used to sending somebody from one culture into another culture. But there are missionaries who are from the culture that go right back into it. And I would say that that's what you're seeing in guys like myself and Thizzle and Tadashi and Tripoli is we're from a particular culture and we're going back into it. And so what some would perceive as, are you mixing it up in there? Are you being tainted or influenced by it? We say no, we're just living amongst the people that we were raised up with, and we're encouraging and inspiring and being pillars of truth for them.
Now that you're at the top of your game, what is it that keeps you from crossing the line? I mean, what is it that keeps you grounded?
Well, one, I mean, it has to be your convictions. You know, it has to be what's in you, and your value system. And I think, you know, if you don't know a person, you can assume their motive and assume their values and their ideals. But my value system, I have a very small, I really don't value the things that I think a lot of people are scared of me wanting. So worldly success and chart tops and chart topping stuff and, you know, fame and money are things that I guard, I have been and continue to guard my heart against. So their value decreases, especially when you begin to look at God for all He is, and you see His eternal worth and how all that pales in comparison. It's a empty trough compared to His living water. And so, you know, I definitely understand the concern, but it's no more than somebody who goes to China and you know, I don't think a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, aren't you worried that you're going to get wrapped up in whatever the culture over there and it's going to consume you and you'll forget about what you're there for. You know, this is what I am. I'm a missionary, and that's what I do.
The subtitle of the Unashamed tour is Come Alive. What does this represent to you? What's your particular message?
I think it's pretty broad. You know, the idea of come alive could be looked on one hand as, you know, people don't know life. They're not living, right? They're what we would call the living dead. They're dead to God. There's nothing about God excites them or inspires them. They're just dead to God. There may be a lot to a lot of other things, but to God they're dead. And so this is a opportunity to say you're not alive. We would love for you to come alive. Obviously you can't do that in and of your own strength, but we want you to come alive, because when you know God, you're really alive. But then there's a second element that's aimed more at the believers, and it's saying, listen, Christianity is not just the truth about salvation and sanctification. Christianity is the truth about life. It's total truth. It's the truth about your job. It's the truth about your marriage. It's the truth about your relationships. It's the truth about your finances. It's the paradigm for everything. And so we're saying come alive in every area of your life, to let the truth of the gospel permeate it all. And so that's really what we're talking about.
You seem to be the mentor to your tour mates, but how do you see this play outside of your music?
Well, I think, you know, there's trainers and there's coaches, in my opinion. I think trainers are people who can sit with someone day after day, show them, do this, do that, don't do this, do that, and they're just going to work on them and work on them. And there's coaches, and coaches they have specified areas where they're good at kind of coming up with a game plan to get that player to be something. And I think I'm a coach. You know, I have specified areas that God has gifted me in that I can be used to grow people and to edify them. And so just knowing that those are the areas that I really try to spend a lot of time in. And so there's a group of guys that I meet with consistently back in Atlanta, you know, a group of urban guys, and I spend time just coaching them I spend time helping them to grow in different areas of their lives, in areas of marriage, masculinity, financial integrity, and just commitment. And those are some of the things that I think God has strengthened me in. And so, that's what I'm encouraged to do in the area where I'm excited to pour my life out. So.
Before I let you go, do you have anything else on your heart you'd like to share?
Well, one thing I just, I recognize that I'm a face of a movement of sorts. But I just want people to realize that it is a movement, that it's not Lecrae. That it's way bigger than me. Obviously, it's God, but that God has so many different individuals, and Hebrews talks about there's people that the world is not worthy of. You've never heard their name. You don't know what they did exactly, or their story's not written in Scripture, but there's so many individuals around me that I'm connected to, including the guys on stage. Thizzle, who's incredibly involved in the city, Trip, who's turning the corner to becoming a pastor. There's so many guys who are doing incredible things, and so many people around me, that it really is a movement, that I'm really just a snapshot of what's really happening, and I just hope people recognize that this is organic, this is something God has done, and it's not a testament to just my hard work, my talent, my stuff. Like, it really has been a collective effort, and for whatever reason, I've been the most visible, but it's a collective front. So, yeah.
It was a real honor for me to spend time with some of the artists on the Unsam tour. When they're not performing, they are missionaries who have embedded themselves in places and cultures that they grew up in. This is something the church has needed for a long time. We've needed men and women who have been called to minister in these places, be it the urban culture, the metal culture, the gay culture. I think as a church we've missed this amazing opportunity to support these artists, simply because we are turned off by how they look or the style of music they perform. We might not say it, but we think, how can any good come from there? We continue to send missionaries to other countries all the time. Now, I don't think that's a bad thing, but I think we've often chose to neglect the missionaries who are already right in our backyard. So my question is, why do we do that? What's stopping us from embracing these artists who search after God's heart? What is it we're really afraid of? Think about that. And until next time, peace.
And stop giving my suggestions, cause when I follow my obsessions I end up confessing that I'm not that impressive. Matter of fact, I'm who I are, a trail of stardust leading to the superstar. Yeah.